He's like, yeah, they were doing Brat Summer. Big mistake. Mark Levin interviewed this demon. Ay, ay, ay. All right, let's move on from this. I can't do this anymore. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about China a little bit because Beijing has engaged in retaliatory tariffs against Donald Trump. Okay. Interesting predicament, especially considering that the Trump tariffs and also all of the stuff that they're doing internally, like undermining and crippling the funding of the National Institute of Health and the way that the NIH actually funds colleges, is directly hurting America. U.S. aid, undermining U.S. aid is beneficial for China and Chinese global power. Make no mistake. And so is undermining the NIH. Undermining NIH is also bad for a multitude of different reasons in terms of like, novel chemical compound discovery and America being a dominant force in the field of medicine at a time when China is actually actively engaging in medical innovation. So basically what we're doing to ourselves is undermining America, undermining America's soft power capabilities, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with that or don't agree with that. That is definitely what will happen. Here it is.
China has added extra tariffs on a range of American imports. Coal and liquefied natural gas will be levied with an additional 15% tax. Crude oil, farming equipment, and some vehicles, 10%. The move is Beijing's response to the Trump administration's added 10% tariff imposed on all Chinese imports to the U.S. at the start of February.
Trade and tariff wars have no winners. What is needed?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because every YouTuber for the past decade has been talking about how China is going to collapse tomorrow. China is going to collapse any day now. Now, writing videos like that might get you the easiest 1 to 2 million views of your life because there's a lot of people that want to hear that. Unfortunately for those people, that's not the reality. It doesn't correspond to what's actually happening. Hey, Charlana Zard. Thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. For all the raiders, you came in just in time for me to talk about the American collapse and the Chinese century of prosperity. China is on pace to become the most powerful country on others in like 50 years. We may be cooked. First of all, I don't think it's 50 years. And secondly, I don't know how we get cooked in that process. But Donald Trump is accelerating that, is what I mean. Donald Trump is accelerating Chinese prosperity. And this is one of these initiatives.
Needed are not more tariffs, but dialogue. We urge the U.S. to correct its action and stop weaponizing trade issues.
China is also hitting back by filing a lawsuit against the U.S. at the World Trade Organization, sanctioning 2 U.S. firms, tightening control over the export of rare earth minerals to the U.S., and launching an antitrust investigation into tech giant Google. China's first move in Donald Trump's continuing trade war against it is relatively restrained, affecting less than 10% of its annual US imports. But it does carry a warning for Washington. Beijing doesn't want an extended trade war, but it is ready for one and can now cause more damage to the US economy than it did during Trump's first term.
China really learned the lesson from the first Trump administration. It's not wise, to immediately take a dramatic measure against Trump, because at the end of the day, we know for sure Trump is a very transactional.
Trump wants to decrease Washington's trade deficit with China, which hit a record $295 billion last year. He says the added tariffs are also punishment for not doing enough to stem the tide of the illegal drug fentanyl to the US, something Chinese officials deny.
These latest announcements are a way of President Trump showing that he is very serious about using the tariff instrument as a policy tool for achieving both economic and non-economic objectives.
Washington also plans to...
No privacy, no freedom of speech, hyperrealism, 6 days, 10 hours per day, low pay. Is this what you want? I've been spit on by Chinese people due to being Korean. Like, please stop pretending like there's some kind of enlightened civilization. Dude, that's so funny, being a Korean dude and thinking that, like, Americans, depending on where you go, won't spit on you or do worse. Okay, so exactly like America? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, go to the West Bank, see what they do to you there. I'm literally the descendant of a Korean War veteran. Which side? Cool. Cool. I'm a Korean veteran too. I can give you a link of my grandfather. It's very funny to use racism as a reason to hate China in defense of the United States of America. This incredible stuff. We just elected Trump. Also, how do you like your current Korean government? Or any number of different any number of different formations that the Korean government has taken hold in the Republic of Korea under the watchful gaze of the American State Department. What do you mean? I feel like we've done awful things to Korea in general. Korea is still suffering from the impact of our actions. So has China and Japan. I feel like Japan is in a league of its own if we're going to be talking about what it's done. Let me think. You got China, Japan, and the United States of America in terms of its impact in Korea. I wonder which of these three countries has devastated Korea more. I wonder who'd take third place in that. Or it shouldn't even be mentioned. What the fuck? Anyway. Hasan is still mad for criticizing the Democratic Party on its stance on Israel, and now seeing what Trump is doing makes it even worse. What? Yeah, you're right. Because my criticisms of the Democratic Party were just around the issue of allowing Israel to continue doing genocide and giving them the weapons to do so. Thank you for truly understanding my political commentary on this. Also, thank you for acting like you give a shit about Gaza. Why you gotta ride so hard for China? Chatter, I'm writing for history. What are you talking about? In terms of China, Japan, and the United States of America, what nation has had infinitely worse impact on Korea? If you think China is part of it, then your brain is broken. Like this chatter. China has Han chauvinism built in their culture. They didn't think Goryeo is Korean, but Chinese history. Every country in East Asia is racist, misogynist. China is not a utopia. I never said it was. There are millions of Chinese people that suffer from classism. I never said they don't. They will never have justice for Tiananmen Square or their people robbed. This is not whataboutism. Fuck the conservatives, fuck the liberals too, fuck the dictatorships. I'm no American simp, I'm no China simp. So has China and Japan. China is the reason North Korea exists. You're right. The entirety of Korea should have been an American military installation as a bulwark against Chinese and Soviet communism instead of, you know, everything beneath the 30th parallel. Dude, like, I'm sorry, brother, but like, the American government did horrifying shit. The Korean dictatorship did horrifying shit to the South Koreans. This is before we think about what would amount to genocide in North Korea. The very fact that there is a North and South Korea is already ridiculous. If it wasn't America doing it, we would be writing about it in history books as a genocide. But because it was America doing it, it's not considered as such. I'll never forget the Turkish soldiers for slowing down the Chinese advance to Chosin by 3 days and saving the 8th U.S. Army from collapse. You should have surrendered your Asian brethren on day one. Listen, my people's involvement in this was wrong. A stain. Okay? Trust me. Because we were liberators, Lamau, you can't be saying that. Oh, you're joking. Okay, never mind. What? You really are not properly informed, Hassan. I did not fault you. If you want to know what is really going on in North Korea, please check my PFP. This queen is... fucking idiot. This queen is a giant amongst historians telling the truth about North Korean horrors. It's true. How the fuck do we get here? I was talking about America basically destroying itself and creating opportunity for China. Donald Trump destroying America's leadership position around the globe. Anti-Turkmenism is a real thing, dude. Don't sweep it under the rug. It's been boiling over for a while. Have you noticed the rise of anti-Turkmenism in the US recently? What? Dude, Americans don't know what a fucking Turkic person is to be adequately and sufficiently racist towards them. What are you saying? What are you, like a fucking unironic panturinist or something? What is happening? Americans think I'm Arab, dude. and I ride a camel to work when I'm back in Turkey, they don't know. Americans are too stupid to understand the distinct ethnicities to be sufficiently and adequately racist against them. They think, bro, Americans think Indians are Muslim. And some are, but they're not making that distinction. Okay?
To scrap duty exemptions for cheap Chinese goods, the so-called de minimis rule, which would raise prices for e-commerce stores, Temu and Shine. An extra 25% US tariff on steel and aluminium would affect less than 1% of China's global exports of the commodities. For now, Xi Jinping is watching closely for Trump's next move and is ready to inflict more pain on the US and its companies in response. Katrina Yu, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
Make sure to subscribe.
Adding a 50% tariff won't impact us much.
Chinese toy trader Zheng Hao says new tariffs from US President Donald Trump don't bother him.
First of all, our product is a high profit product. For example, if I sell it here for 5 yuan, the wholesalers may give consumers a price of 15 or 20 yuan, because this is the standard pricing in the US. Even if a tariff adds 2.5 yuan to a 5 yuan toy, the impact on the end consumer isn't too significant.
Zheng's Jinqi Toys is in a massive market complex in the eastern city of Yiwu. Yiwu is the world's largest hub for selling small products wholesale. Everything from costume jewellery to Christmas decorations are sold here. Zheng says the US accounts for about 80% of his exports. Still, he's not fazed by Trump's tariffs and other moves against China.
The United States unpredictability, well, we're okay with it. It's whatever. We have no choice.
Trump promised 60% tariffs on Chinese goods during his campaign, but he revised that down to 10% after taking office. He also plans to cancel duty-free treatment of low-cost packages from China under the so-called de minimis rule. That loophole lets parcels worth less than $800 enter the US tax-free.
Whatever they say, we just follow. If they cancel small parcel shipments, then our customers will switch to shipping by containers, right?
Cheng Haodong is chairman of Besa Group, which sells a range of items from clothes to toiletries. He told Reuters that they had already made preparations to soften the blow.
Before Trump took office, we predicted he would be elected. So what should we do after Trump comes to power? We gathered information from various reports as well as on platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Based on that, we made strategic adjustments for the company in advance. It's not about reacting immediately when a policy is announced. By then, it would be too late to adapt.
Trump's moves have reignited fears of a full-blown trade war escalating between the world's two largest economies. China is preparing its own counter-tariffs of up to 15% on some US goods. Abby Jin buys products in Yiwu on behalf of her international customers in markets including the United States. She told
It seems like the Chinese were not too fond of Kamala's campaign. It seems like they were tapped into the Hasanabi broadcast and saw many of the campaign's failures. He's like, yeah, they were doing Brat's Summer. Big mistake. As soon as we saw Brat's Summer, we knew Trump was most likely going to be president. They hate Alan Lichtman in China. Alan, they're calling you bitch made at Yiwu International Trade Market District, dog. Alan Lichtman. They're calling you a dummy over there, dog. They 3D printed your keys. They've been turning your keys left and right out there at the Yiwu International Trade Market District. They got 14 of them. They printed them out. They're selling the keys, Alan. don't know, man. I wouldn't let them talk to me like that, but that's just me, bro. They can talk however they want, man. What are you gonna do?
Told Reuters that vendors in the city were not short of orders.
We can respond by slightly reducing our profit margins or adjusting costs. In the end, the additional costs will be passed on to the end consumers in their country, meaning they will ultimately bear the consequences of their own economic policies. For the US, whether they can find a suitable country to replace us as a trade partner is a question they need to consider themselves.
Another day, another set of tariffs. This time around, it's steel and aluminum as they call it, in America. Let me just give you the big picture here, starting with aluminium. This is showing you just how much each country around the world produces. It goes all the way back to 1900. That's the US, okay? So it used to be one of the world's biggest producers. Other countries have since caught up and actually overtaken it. So Canada, that's in front, partly down to the fact that it takes a lot of power to make aluminium. You're kind of refining it with electricity. It's kind of electrolysis, and there's a lot of hydro.
It is pretty wild that you're looking at like a bunch of random Chinese commerce people that just are tasked with import, export, mostly export. And they have a better understanding of like the tariff war than American business owners that are like, nah, you don't understand, brother. When the tariffs come in, prices are going to go down, actually, somehow, magically. And then